kicked off here. Thanks to so many of you for joining us. Great to see you all. This is one of the beautiful things about technology, to be able to gather like this. I'm curious to know, any of you represent a twin relationship with a country in Latin America? A show of hands, anybody? I don't see any hands, yeah. Oh, there was one, okay, good. Yeah, Kevin, thank you. Which country are you twinned with, Kevin? If you can unmute yourself there.
Honduras.
Honduras, oh, good. Excellent, good. Well, that is one of the countries that is in the program, so I'm glad you could join us. So probably many of you, like myself, and several of our PTA board members have been, well, maybe hounded would be too strong a word, but maybe not so much by Haitians or in some other countries, perhaps, because we all make friends when we're in these countries, certainly over the years. And I've personally had several folks contact me and multiple times just begging to sponsor them. And I've heard from many of our members, folks like you out there, that have asked lots of questions. And so there's some mystery around this. It's been a kind of a new program in a sense. So just not everything is really set in stone. So we felt like it'd be really helpful to have somebody who's much more expert in this, Yer Yang. So we sure appreciate her joining us. She can introduce herself and kind of her background, but she is an attorney, so she actually can speak much more intelligently about this than I can. And hopefully we'll leave some time for some questions and answers. But Yer, I'm going to just turn it over to you and let you take it away. And you should be able to share your screen now, I think.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to have a good show this evening, I should say. Tells me that there's a lot of interest in this topic, and I hope that we'll have a good discussion this evening. And by all means, feel free to chime in or ask questions. This really is an opportunity for you to ask the questions that you may have about the Humanitarian Parole Program for Cuban, Haitians, Nicaragua, and Venezuelans. So I'm hearing a little bit of background, so if you all can mute, that way we won't have competing noises. Great, thank you. As David mentioned, my name is Yer Yang, and I serve as the legal director for Catholic Charities Immigration Legal Services Program. And we serve, as some of you may know, we serve throughout the 30 counties in Northeast Iowa as part of the Archdiocese. And so our program with the immigration program really focuses on family-based immigration and humanitarian-based immigration cases. So as you can imagine, with the international, I think, circumstances in the last several years, there's been so many changes and rules that sometimes have been weekly, monthly, that it's hard to keep up with. And this is, fortunately, I think the US government's attempt to at least address some of the recent surges of those wanting to enter the United States and doing it in a way that allows them to enter the US in a lawful manner. So the actual legal terminology of the program that we're going to be talking about is called Humanitarian Parole for these 4 countries. Tonight, though, with the population and the friends that you are concerned about, I'll be focusing mostly just on talking about how this impacts those that are interested in helping your Haitian friends and neighbors from Haiti. And so let me do this by just sharing my screen, and please let me know if you all have difficulty seeing the screen. So what you should be seeing right now is the PowerPoint sort of beginning phase, right? And so that's just an intro. And as I mentioned, with respect to our program and what we do, our program offers free legal consultations to anyone who has a legal immigration question covering the topics that we may be able to provide assistance with. And the the PowerPoint slide is showing you just an example of some of the type of cases that we help with, right? So humanitarian parole would be part of our humanitarian parole program, or humanitarian types of cases that we could potentially provide assistance with. And Steve Schmitz is on this call too. So Steve is a longtime friend and colleague of mine, and he knows how busy our office is with the type of immigration services that are needed and requested from our office. And this program is unique, and we'll talk a little bit about the uniqueness of this program compared to some of these cases that we've been working on through the immigration family-based services, okay? So at its nutshell, as David said, the program has been recently introduced, and it is connected to last year when the United States government introduced Uniting for Ukraine as an avenue for Ukrainians to enter the United States lawfully, because they were seeing thousands of Ukrainians actually making their way to Mexico and then also trying to enter at the southern border without documentation or illegally, right? And so United States decided that they were going to offer a humanitarian parole program for Ukrainians that would allow them to have a U.S. sponsor that could say, yes, I'm vouching to have the financial resources to take care of this person if this person from Ukraine enters the United States, and then can also apply for work authorization later. Because that program was such a success, they decided to also make this program available then in November of 2022, also to Venezuelans, because of the turmoil that was happening in the country of Venezuela. Fast forward to then January of this year, January 2023, that program was then opened up to other countries that were also experiencing turmoil and civil strife and danger and natural disasters. So that program opened up to Cubans or Cuba, Haiti, and also Nicaragua, right? So these are, for now, the countries that can avail themselves of this parole program, okay? Now, parole in its nutshell is really the United States government's ability and authority to exercise what we'll call discretionary authority to let in a non-citizen who does not have a visa to enter the United States temporarily for what they call humanitarian reasons or because of significant public benefit, right? So as you can imagine, for Haiti, in the last couple of years, in terms of the turmoil that's happened there, natural disasters on top of the assassination in Haiti has led to this need to help provide some way of a legal pathway for Haitians to enter the United States and receive temporary relief or protection in the United States. And so there are different types of parole program that we mentioned earlier, but for Haitians, they can make themselves available to pursue or obtain an entry to the United States through this humanitarian parole program. And really, as I mentioned, this is a temporary process only. And so when Haitians do this and engage in this, it does not give them a long-term pathway to what we call a green card or U.S. citizenship status. This is temporary, so when they enter the United States lawfully, they are allowed to work and apply for work authorization for 2 years, and then they may have to return back to Haiti and exit back in the United States, unless there's a different pathway for them to seek long-term legal permanent residency status, okay? So this is, the slide here is a really brief overview of the parole steps and process, which I will help you break down and explain to you what each of the steps entail. But sort of an overview is what's required in this process, that it's required to have a US-based financial sponsor who files an immigration form called the I-134A. It's called a financial declaration by the U.S. sponsor. The U.S. sponsor does not have to be a citizen. The U.S. sponsor can be someone who has lawful status. So it means it could be anyone who's a U.S. citizen, who has a green card, even someone who has what we call temporary protected status or temporary, what we call deferred action status. Those would also be people who are physically present in the United States that have lawful status and can be a financial sponsor. for someone who may be Haitian national and then came to the United States and was granted asylum. And as they're waiting for them to get their green card, they can also be eligible to be a U.S. sponsor. So it's not limited to just these U.S. citizens, okay? So the U.S. sponsor needs to file this form, and it is this process, by the way, which we'll talk a bit later, but is completely done online. There is no paper that is required or will be accepted. So as a financial sponsor, you have to be somewhat tech savvy to navigate the USCIS, which is the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website, which is the agency that's responsible for adjudicating and making decisions about these applications. And we'll talk a little bit about what that process may look like. So the U.S. sponsor has to file this form online completely. And part of that is that then they have to prove that they have the financial means, right, to support the Haitian national that they want to be the financial sponsor for. What happens next is once they send in this application online, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service Office will review if the financial sponsor meets the financial criteria. And oftentimes what that means is that the financial sponsor has to meet at or above the federal poverty level, okay? And if there's any questions about that, I can talk a little bit about that. But federal poverty level is the United States' ability to ascertain if you really do have the financial means to sponsor this person, because we don't want that person to necessarily come to the United States and then rely solely on federal public benefits for the duration of their time here, right? If they do, that's fine, but they want the financial sponsors to have some investment, financial investment in sponsoring the Haitian national. Once the U.S. sponsor completes this forms and sends this form online to USCIS, they will review it and vet for financial resources, and also they'll vet the financial sponsor to make sure that he or she doesn't have certain criminal history. For example, they're really worried, concerned about what we call human traffickers, that they are not someone who's gonna, necessarily sponsor people and then engage in human trafficking in labor and sexual exploitation. So they will be screening sponsors on that level as well. So if the screening is successful and USCIS determines that you meet the financial criteria and you also meet the criminal background criteria, that you're cleared, then what happens is the USCIS will then notify the Haitian national to say, dear sir, madam, Steve Schmitz from the United States of America is your financial sponsor and has completed this I-34A form and has listed you as a beneficiary of the PROLE program. We need you to verify your background, including your biographical background, and making certain affirmations or attestations online that they don't have, that they meet the qualifications to be allowed into the United States, including a background check and sufficient ability to go through the process, right? And once the Haitian national goes online and verifies this information on his end through his account, then the United States government's division under the Customs Border Protection, which is another arm or branch of the Department of Homeland Security, this branch of the United States government is responsible for screening all entries into the United States. They will verify that this person has all the travel documents or all the documents necessary, and then they will issue the person authorization approval to say, you meet the qualifications, you'll be granted essentially what's called a advanced parole travel document, okay? And you are authorized to then now purchase your plane ticket, and you must have actually a valid passport so that you can actually exit the country and enter the United States with this travel document and your passport. Now, once they get the plane ticket and the travel document, and it will be sent to them electronically, online only. It's not going to be mailed to them in Haiti. It's not going to be mailed to the financial sponsor in the United States. It will be emailed to them through this online portal. They will need that and their passport, and then they can purchase a plane ticket. They can only travel via plane. They cannot travel by obviously other means, because this process allows Customs Border Protection at the port of entry of the airports to screen and make sure that the person has the right necessary documentation and authority to enter the United States with that travel document and their Haitian passport, right? And so what happens at the port of entry at the airport, let's say the Haitian gets an airline ticket, has his passport, has their travel documents, purchases the flight, gets on the plane, travels and arrives at the Miami International Airport. At that point, the Customs Border Protection also has the authority to deny the person entry to the United States too. So it's not a guaranteed that just because you've received this travel document and approval to enter the United States, you can still be denied entrance to the United States, even at the airport port of entry in the United States. So these are sort of a summary of the process. So once they arrive in the United States and they're allowed in, then they have to make their way to their final destination, whether that be Iowa or wherever the port of entry is for them. Okay, so that's just a general overview of the beginning to end process. Okay, just a summary of sort of the multiple steps involved. I wanted to kind of lay that out a little bit more quickly, a little bit more detailed. As I mentioned, you have to have a U.S. financial sponsor submitting the I-34A. And that U.S. sponsor needs to provide they have sufficient proof of income. Right now, they're looking at the poverty level. So if you are right now a financial sponsor interested in sponsoring one individual in Haiti, you would have to look at your family's household size and count that by individual person, and then look at your income, household income, to see if you meet the threshold to sponsor an individual from Haiti. The threshold is 125% of the federal poverty level. Right now, a family size of 4 needs to say that they make, I believe, when I last checked, at least $35,000 a year, okay? To be able to say that you have the financial income to sponsor one person, okay? So you would be looking at that to make sure that you have the sufficient income. The second step is the Haitian national needs to have a valid passport and sufficient funds to purchase a plane ticket and have access to a smartphone, because all this process is going to be happening online and requires the Haitian national to be able to navigate an application that needs to be used either on a smartphone or on a laptop, but most likely a smartphone. There is an online app that we'll talk about here in step 5. In addition to the Haitian national having a valid passport, even if they have a passport right now, that passport needs to be good for more than 6 months. When you travel internationally, if you have a passport, whether it's a US passport or another passport that has less than 6 months validity on your passport, it's likely that you will not be allowed entry based on that passport. So you want to advise your Haitian friend that they have a valid passport that's good for more than 6 months, okay? Third, the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services is planning, it will vet the U.S. sponsor, right, their background and the financials. Once that's approved, then the fourth step, I missed a number here, but the fourth step here is that they will need to then establish both the financial sponsor and the beneficiary. They have to create what's called a My USCIS account online. Is anyone familiar with using a USCIS account online? Probably not. I will say this. I'm not a fan because as a practicing attorney, oftentimes the federal government doesn't always have the best technology tool, even when they allow programs like this to happen. So we've heard reports of this My USCIS account and the CBP One mobile app not working very well. So you and your Haitian friend should expect some delays and some, I think, difficulty in completing this process online. I think you'll have a little bit more success with the My USCIS account, but the CBP1 is one where we have seen and heard a lot of trouble with people utilizing and accessing that account and that application on the smartphone. Okay, so this is creating a My USCIS account is the way in which the US government is going to be communicating with you as the financial sponsor, and it'll also be using this to communicate with your Haitian national beneficiary. So if you see this term beneficiary, this is in reference to the Haitian national. You are the sponsor, the Haitian national is the beneficiary, right? So on the beneficiary side of things, they also need to be tech savvy enough to have a smartphone and download this online app called CBP1. So if you have an Apple smartphone, you can go to the Apple store and type in CBP1. If you have an Android phone, you can go to the Play Store and then also look for this app and download that and create your online account, okay? Particularly for your Haitian national friend, you wanna make sure that they know how to use that and create one, okay? The next step is that once everything is approved in terms of the financial sponsor vetting, CBP and USCIS will then notify the Haitian beneficiary through this CBP1 app that says, hey, your request to enter the United States is approved, and here is your travel authorization document. It is going to look like a weird letter that says travel authorization, and it'll have a bunch of numbers referencing the case, a receipt number, and it'll say approved for travel authorization. So essentially what this program is giving Haitian nationals travel permission to enter the United States. That's all it is. It does not guarantee them any status in the United States. It does not guarantee them actual entry to the United States. It just says, if you have this travel permission, it will let you leave Haiti and hopefully enter the United States at a port of entry, assuming you've met all the qualifications and will be approved even at the port of entry airport, okay? And then of course, the last step is the beneficiary needs to buy a plane ticket and have a valid passport and then flies to the United States, okay? So that's sort of the 6-7 steps involved in this process, okay? I'm gonna ask Steve to monitor the chat if there are any questions, or feel free to unmute yourself and chime in if you have any questions about this process, okay? Let's talk a little bit about who can be a financial sponsor or supporter, right? As I mentioned, it could be anyone in the United States who has lawful status, US citizens, people with green cards, people who are asylees, people who are refugees, people who have TPS status, okay? There is no requirement that you are related to the Haitian beneficiary. It could be a friend, it could be a complete stranger, it could be someone you just met once, but there is no requirement that there is a relationship between you and the beneficiary. You, as the financial sponsor, will need to pass through security and background check as well as financial vetting, okay? And the other thing is who can be the beneficiary. The trick of this is that the beneficiary, Haitian beneficiary, needs to be outside the US, right? They can't be already physically in the US because that is not what this program is for. This program is for people who are stuck outside of the US and need entry into the US. So most likely these are your Haitian friends who are still stuck in Haiti. They have to be a national of Haiti, okay? Or they have to be an immediate family member that will travel with the principal or primary Haitian beneficiary. So in this case, if Steve is wanting to sponsor a friend that is a husband in Haiti, but he also says, Steve, can you also sponsor my wife and my child? He can do that, Steve can do that, but Steve's gonna have to fill out separate I-34A for every individual. He can't just do it for the husband. He needs to do one for the husband, one for the wife, and one for the child. But in terms of traveling and who's allowed to be included in this process, the immediate family is a very tricky definition. It only includes a spouse. They also include common law partners and children under the age of 21 years old, okay? They can be considered immediate family that will travel with the primary adult in that process, okay? The beneficiary has to be, the primary beneficiary has to be a national, but the immediate family member that's traveling with them does not have to be a Haitian national. So for example, your Haitian friend who's the husband is a Haitian national, but he married a woman who is a national of the Dominican Republic next door, right? This will allow the Dominican Republic wife national to be allowed to be sponsored through this process as well. And let's say their child has dual nationality, both from Dominican Republic and from Haiti. That child can also travel through this process or be eligible for this process because that child does not have to be only a Haitian national. That child can have dual citizenship in another country, okay? As I mentioned, the primary Haitian beneficiary has to have an unexpired passport that's valid for travel. One thing that doesn't apply for Haitians, but I know in Venezuela, they're saying that Venezuela, there's some situation where if the Venezuelan individual has an expired passport, they will allow them to travel on that, but that's very specific to Venezuela. I think in Haiti, you need to have a valid passport that's good for 6 months or more, okay? In addition to the beneficiary needs to, of course, have an approved financial sponsor that has completed the I-34A. They're gonna have to purchase their own travel ticket to the United States. They have to pass national security and public safety vetting and criminal background check, and also have complied with medical vaccination and public health requirement. For example, their COVID vaccination shots. They have to be up to date with all their vaccines and shots, okay? So that is what is the basic qualifications for someone who can benefit from a national from Haiti that could benefit and avail themselves to this program, okay? Next, one thing I do want to caution you to share with your Haitian friends is that the things I'm going to talk about next are what we call bars or elements to disqualify someone to avail themselves of the parole program. Is that if they possess permanent residency in another country or refugee status in another country, this is with the exception of, I mentioned the immediate family members, right? But if your primary Haitian beneficiary has dual citizenship in Haiti and Dominican Republic, he or she is not going to be available or eligible for humanitarian parole, okay? Unless they are a spouse of the primary Haitian national that's applying for parole, okay? And traveling with them. The Haitian primary beneficiary cannot have been deported in the last 5 years from the United States, right? Or subject to a prior deportation order from the United States, okay? And the Haitian primary beneficiary national cannot have crossed into the US between ports of entries, okay? So basically, illegal crossing into the United States, excuse me, would disqualify that person. And then we talked about unlawful crossing as well. So if they had crossed and left Haiti and traveled to Mexico and attempted to cross the border after January 9th of this year, they would not be eligible for this program. Excuse me, just to take a quick sip of water. And then lastly, another warning is for children. Children under the age of 18 cannot travel alone through this parole program. They must travel with a parent or legal guardian. The concern for this rule is that they do not want children to be subjected to or subjected to obviously international kidnappings or traveling, or international children who are traveling with unaccompanied parents. So this program is not available for children who want to travel alone to come to the United States. They have to travel with a parent or legal guardian, okay? additional information about the financial supporters or sponsors. I think this is a question that we've talked quite a bit about, and there may be some additional questions about this, but financial sponsors can file these forms independently, individually, or as a group, okay? They can also file as an organization or business and entity, all right? And they can have more than one financial sponsor for the same foreign beneficiary. So for example, if I and Steve and David want to sponsor one Haitian friend, we can do that, but we will have to submit each individual I-34As for that one financial sponsor. So there's more work. So in our practice, what we've seen is it's a lot more work and trouble for multiple sponsors for one person versus one person sponsoring multiple people is a little bit easier, right? In terms of the paperwork process and documentation required that needs to be submitted online, okay? And as I mentioned, alternative supporters can file the same form for the same beneficiary. And so one question that I think we have heard before, and I want to address that is, well, does this I-134A, is it a legally enforced binding contract? Meaning, if I say, Yer Yang, I want to sponsor my Haitian friend to come to the United States, and I vouch that I have this financial means right now to sponsor them. But what happens when they get here and then for some reason I lose my job, something happens and I don't have the financial means to support it? Can the US government sue me on the Haitian nationals' behalf to say, no, Yer, you signed this I-34A, you are financially responsible? What we have heard is that this is not an enforceable, legally binding financial contract. This isn't to say someone can't sue, right? But what we have seen is this particular form is very different than other immigration form that we've used that called the affidavit of support, which is a legally, financially enforceable contract. So when we discuss this with our counterparts and on the national level about whether this form I-34A is a legally enforceable contract, they have provided a legal opinion that this is not. So I would feel comfortable saying that for those people with questions about this form, whether it's a legally enforceable contract, that I would feel comfortable assuring you that it is not, and that you should not be concerned that someone would sue you to enforce the financial vouching that you said that you would have the financial means to do so, okay? So that is, I think, a question that some of you have had in the past that I wanted to address up front. And if there's subsequent questions that I'm happy to address that as well, okay? The thing that I want to warn you all about the actual process as a financial sponsor is the process itself. As an attorney, actually, I can't fill out this form. Let's say, David, you're like, Yer, can you help me fill out this form for the Haitian friend that I want to sponsor, and can you just fill it online for me? Technically, I cannot do so. I can't submit the form that says I'm the attorney helping David with this, okay? What David needs to do then is create this My USCIS account online on it, and create an account, and then perhaps David can come to my office and we would basically do this over the computer, and I can basically review it to make sure that the information is what we're needing and that he's uploading the documents correctly. But as an attorney, I can't actually sign to say that I'm preparing this form on David's behalf and I'm representing David in this process. So when you do this, just keep that in mind, that you want to make sure that you feel comfortable navigating USCIS's online account, okay? In the same path, the foreign national Haitian beneficiary can't submit an I-34A on his or her behalf. They can't sponsor themselves, right? It needs to be the US person. and you have to vouch as the financial sponsor to be willing to accept and receive the person. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the good news about Haitians is there may be additional resources available once the person comes to the United States, because there is a period, right, when they get to the United States and before they actually are approved and receive what we call work authorization, there's going to be several months where there's a gap in ability for that person to work, and what can be used as resources to help supplement that person. And we can talk about those types of potential federal public benefits that are actually available for Haitian nationals. And we'll mention that towards the end here. And as I mentioned, all this is done and filed completely through the USCIS portal online through the My USCIS web portal. The good news as a financial sponsor, when you fill out this I-34A, there is no fee that you have to pay the federal government to fill this. So that's a great thing. So if someone charges you or the Haitian national to quote, pay the US government for this fee, they are lying. Don't trust them. Now, if you go to an attorney like me and say, sir, can you help me make sure and review this? I may charge you a fee for the service. That's obviously allowed. But there is no fee that you have to pay the federal government for completing and filing this I-34A form to get it started, okay? So some basic information that you should think about to gather if you're gonna proceed with this, that will be needed to be entered into the I-34A. Obviously your name and full aliases, and if you are applying as an organization or entity, the name of the organization and all the potential parties that will be part of this, contact information, dates of birth and places of birth and gender for the actual financial sponsor, the financial sponsor's immigration status, and if there's any relationship to the beneficiary, not that there's a requirement, right? And your employment status, and of course, the household size and income that will allow you to meet the financial requirements, okay?
Hey, Zer.
Yes.
We're racking up quite a few questions, so I don't know if we got a hard end at 1/2 the hour. And I don't know how much longer your presentation goes, but I know that we can send the presentation, I assume, to people as a PDF file.
I can do that. I'll have to do some quick tinkering, but I can send that to David.
Okay.
And yep. So
If you want to hit highlights, then I can throw questions out.
Yeah, let's do this. This is really just digging into the kind of the meat of the I-34A process. And this can be part of something that you all can read and review this later. So maybe given the time, looking at 7:10 here, I do want to give you all as much time as possible to answer questions. So if you all are comfortable, I can pause my piece and then let's ask some questions and let's have a discussion. How does that sound?
Sounds great, Zara. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of go through these in order. Some of them are very similar, and you might be able to answer 2 of them with one answer. But the first one that came up was that many of the beneficiaries from various countries have limited funds to purchase airline tickets. Are there specific suggestions on how to send money to the potential beneficiaries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I don't have a good answer to that in terms of how to send money to beneficiaries. I mean, I can look into it, but I think that some of you may actually have better resources. I think in terms of sending money to the beneficiaries, if there is, I mean, I know in our experience when we work with clients, they send money through Western Union or through different routes to get to the foreign national. But what I don't know is the condition of the country in Haiti and the infrastructure to make sure that the money gets to where it needs to get.
So we had a few suggestions come popping in. One was just buy the plane ticket for them, and you know, that's maybe one thing. Western Union is something people have used. In Haiti in particular, Foncozy seems to be okay. My favorite is MoneyGram. which is currently fairly safe. So those are some. Cubans have had a special parole until this program began in January. Do the same rules apply for Cubans in this parole program?
Yes, so this parole program covers Cubans, Haitians, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans. So this, everything that I'm talking about would have the same impact for those nationals from those countries only. It's only for those 4 countries. Venezuelans, there may be slight modifications. As I mentioned, the example of the passport, because in Venezuela, the country is in complete turmoil too, and they're allowing Venezuelans to travel if they have an expired passport. But that's not the same for the other countries, right? So in general, the infrastructure that I just discussed is the same for all those 4 countries.
You have any more information on the kind of timeline for the beneficiary to get approval to work?
Yes, I think right now they're looking at about 8 months processing time with USCIS. Now, that's just a ballpark. I will tell you that there is significant backlogs with USCIS. So I cannot guarantee that, let's say that someone arrives today and then tomorrow comes into my office and we send in an application for their work authorization, that they will get work authorization with by 8 months. However, this goes to the other point I was going to make is I sent to, I think, David and Steve, there is a chart that was created by USCI, US Catholic Conference of Bishops, that lays out the different types of possible public benefits that that Cubans and Haitians can avail themselves to, right? And the good news, let me just double check so I got it right, but Cubans and Haitians, because of a long history with those countries, when they enter the United States through this program, they're going to be treated very similar to individuals who might avail themselves of refugee services. So the good news, Haitians, once they get to the United States, we can work with our local Health and Human Services office and help them apply for cash assistance, TANF, temporary assistance to needy families, Medicaid, and food stamps. Okay, so they should qualify for that to help meet that gap before the while they're waiting for their work authorization. Okay, a follow-up to that is, well, here I'm vouching to have the financial means to support this person, and now I'm helping them apply for public benefits. Isn't that counter to the purpose? Well, the way this is set up, they understand that, so that you are not going to get in trouble. You as the financial sponsor is not going to get in trouble with the federal government to help these individuals apply for these benefits. This is what they should be doing. Okay, so what we are advising is if you are sponsoring people, once they get here, you want to make sure you have good networking connections so that they get here, they get the resources available to them. Some counties are much more flush with resources, other counties are not. So make friends with your local county Health and Human Services office is my advice.
Do you have any idea of the approval timeline for the I-134A?
What we've heard is those are really quick now, but I'm going to give you some recent stats. Since October, well, actually, since as of February 17th of this year, Department of Homeland Security reports that they have approved and granted 26,000 travel authorization. And this includes all countries, not just Haiti. So I'm imagining they haven't released how many have applied, but they're saying they've approved 26,000 people for travel authorization. Okay, so each month, those 4 countries combined are allotted 30,000 spots or 30,000 travel permissions for those 4 countries. So it doesn't mean Haiti gets 30,000 alone in a month. Haiti has to share that 30,000 slot with the other 3 countries. The question about how long it's taking, I just had a consultation with a couple Haitians that were resettled in Waterloo. They arrived in April 28th, and it was a pretty quick process. So it can be relatively quick if the system is working correctly. But I know that it's flawed with many complaints about the CBB1 app. But I hope that if it does work pretty quickly.
Are there medical and vaccination requirements?
Yes, as I mentioned, they are the Haitian national is going to be required to complete the necessary vaccination and COVID vaccine shots. So they're going to have to prove. So they're going to have to go for a medical screening before they enter the United States. So that's what's going to happen is that USCIS is going to send to the Haitian national instructions of what they need to do before they get approved for travel permission. One of that is making sure that they can get a police clearance and their medical exam vaccination confirmation. So most of that is going to be getting your tetanus shots, getting your hepatitis A and B, polio, measles, and then vaccination shots, the COVID-19 vaccine shots. So those are all things that they will need to make sure that they are up to date on.
Okay, kind of a follow-up to that, I guess we'll have to look later on is there someplace we can actually find that list of things that they have to provide medically for their vaccinations?
Mhm.
Let's see. The questions are kind of popping in on one side of my screen faster than I can get them to the other side. So there's a combination question here, I think. Beneficiary got in a car accident. And they were sued because it was their fault. So the Haitian was in a car accident, got sued. Can I be held liable? And the follow-up kind of from a different person though is, does the sponsor have any liability for an accident that the beneficiary causes?
That may be outside my legal expertise scope, but in general, if you think about it this way, that person that caused the accident is the one that's responsible for the legal damage. You aren't the one that drove and caused the property damage or caused the accident, right? You are not going to be held liable in that context, right? Now, that's not to say your Haitian friend will not come to you and say, hey, I just got into this accident. I caused this property damage. I need to pay people. Can you help me with this, right? So that's going to be a question that you're going to have to answer on your own. But in general, it's sort of what we talk about when we have our special immigrant juvenile program and someone becomes a legal guardian for the unaccompanied minor. We say that if that immigrant or the national is the one that causes the accident or the property damage or commits a crime, that person is the one responsible for facing the legal consequences for that.
I would loan out my car.
Right, and so your insurance and all that, so that's going to be a complete different realm in terms of insurance and subrogation lawsuits and whatnot. So I don't want to speculate, but in general, if the person causing the crime or causing the damage or accident, that's the person that's going to be held legally liable for that.
Health screenings, vaccinations, are they provided upon arrival? Does the beneficiary pay for those? What about medical coverage while they're in the U.S.?
So all the vaccinations and medical exam that needs to happen, that's all in Haiti. That's going to have to be done in Haiti. They have to actually get that done and taken care of before they can even enter the United States, right? Because they won't get a travel authorization if they don't get the vaccination and medical clearance. Okay, so that has to happen in Haiti. And the beneficiary will be given instructions as to where to go and how to do this on their end. Okay. The Medicaid application is the public benefits that I was referencing. That's obviously only after they've arrived in the United States that they can apply for Medicaid assistance.
Okay, this one's a little bit. Try to follow me here. I'm the father of an 8-year-old child. A friend of mine has submitted a sponsor form for him, but we still have not received any acceptance information. Can I send a second application in as his father?
I would caution sending in multiple applications because that's going to delay or confuse USCIS. Our goal always is try not to confuse federal government. I would say that since if you have a USCIS account online and you've done this, you can send an inquiry or call USCIS to say, what's the status of my application? I would not submit another one unless they have denied it or have somehow rejected it.
Okay. Okay, I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll ask it again because it might be a short answer. What resources are available to a person newly arrived in the U.S. through the HPP?
What resources are available for them?
Mhm.
Okay, so the big benefit is they can stay here in the United States for 2 years under this temporary status, and they can apply for work authorization. That is the biggest probably motivating factor for probably a lot of Haitians and those that are included in this program to enter the United States. Because most people that enter, they actually are hardworking and they want to just work and save money and plan for a rainy day. And so that is the biggest incentive and benefit, is that they are allowed to legally work in the United States. And in the meantime, while they're waiting for the work authorization, they can avail themselves to the public benefits that I discussed. SNAP, for sure, food stamps, and Medicaid, and potentially cash assistance. And you want to work with your county health and human services caseworker to make sure that they're aware of this Haitian population that would be arriving or has arrived. And you want to make sure that they know that as a Haitian entrant, they can be eligible for these benefits.
So you mentioned the 2 years, and that's a question I've gotten a lot about, is like, what happens after 2 years? And I think the answer is still, we don't really know.
That is correct. We don't know. There is no guarantee the United States government is going to extend or re-parole, right, this program. I'm going to use the example of our Afghan clients. They were brought into the United States, evacuated and brought in under a parole program similar to this. And their parole status ends this year in about 6 to 7 months. And we are frantically helping hundreds of them apply for different statuses that they may be eligible for. Many of them are eligible for temporary protected status because that is something that the United States government has allowed. And so who knows that the United States government may redesignate Haiti another term, because right now there's so many different legal rules surrounding even for Haitians. There's what we call temporary protected status for Haitians, but there's a different time frame for those people who enter. They have to have been here physically in the United States by November, I think is it November 6th of 2022, to avail themselves of this new redesignation of Haiti for temporary protected status. So the quick answer is we don't know. But for the next 2 years, they have legal permission to be here. They will have legal permission to work. And during that process, they potentially will want to probably consult with an immigration attorney to see if there are other avenues to grant them permanent status or extend their status here in the United States.
Does the 2 years start upon their arrival?
I believe so. The 2 year, they will be granted what's called an I-94 at the entrance. It's probably going to be just issued via electronically. It usually will give them the validity date of their parole period. So it will be valid as of the date when they enter the United States, correct? 2 years.
Okay, so I got a couple of questions here to see how we manage the questions. Do we have a hard end, Zer, at 7:30, or David?
I can probably spend for 5 more minutes, but I definitely have to leave at 7:35.
Okay, because we got about 7 or 8 more questions here. So let me try to go through them. I have a Form 131 filed. Then I filed a Form 134A as well. Does either of these applications have an impact on each other?
The I-31, the I-131 is what's called, we call that a travel document. That is not applicable in this particular legal scenario. You do not have to fill out the 131. That's for a completely different process. For the Haitians who are availing themselves through this humanitarian parole program, all you as a financial sponsor needs to do, and for the Haitian beneficiary, is the I-134A form. That's the only form that needs to be technically filled out by the financial sponsor. Do not submit anything else, because that will just confuse immigration and your application may be denied or rejected.
Can the beneficiaries apply for work authorization the day they arrive?
Yes, as soon as they're physically in the United States, if let's say our Haitian friend arrives tomorrow, March 30th, and he is physically here in the United States, he can submit an application for work authorization. Yes.
And that's not state dependent. That's a
Correct. So let's say if let's say they entered in Miami and they are staying with a friend there for a month before they maybe relocate to Iowa. While they're in Florida, they can apply for work authorization, but they just make sure that when they leave or move addresses, they update their address with USCIS, and that can be done completely online as well.
Can a Haitian go to school while in the US under this program?
It depends on what school. Are we talking K through 12 or college? Haitian nationals and entrants are, I don't have an easy answer to that, but K through 12, anybody can be enrolled in the United States K through 12, regardless of their immigration status, okay? Now college, they probably can, but they're gonna have to pay tuition. I don't think they're gonna necessarily be granted in-state tuition. I don't know yet, that hasn't been tested. We'll see if that is allowable, but it would be a good idea, hopefully, to advocate with our community college like Kirkwood, Co, or University of Iowa, or maybe in Waterloo, Hawkeye, some of the local colleges, to see what financial aid might be available for Haitian nationals.
So we got somebody who's living in Port-au-Prince has probably got a good handle on what's going on down there rumor wise. They mentioned that Haitians are under the impression they will get 300 US per month free until they get a job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that if it depends on when they get here, they should, I would say as an attorney, they cannot work illegally without legal authorization. They should not do that, right? Because that's gonna cause problems for them. So I would say that as soon as they enter the United States, apply for work authorization and wait until the work authorization is granted.
Mm-hmm. But as far as benefits like SNAP or other things like that,
they can avail themselves of that as soon as they enter the United States and are here in the United States. Depends on where they want to settle. If they are, the example we use about they want to stay, they flew into Miami, they want to just, you know, get the bearings and stay with a friend there for a month, and then their final destination is Iowa. I wait until they get to Iowa to apply for food stamps and other benefits.
And a clarification on that I-131, it was filed before the new process, the parole process. So is that still going to impact if they file a 134A now?
The I-131 is really for people who are actually physically in the United States. What I-31 is called is an advanced parole, similar to this, but it's basically saying, hey, I'm in the United States. I plan to travel to Haiti. And when I come back to the United States, because I'm not a citizen, I don't have a US passport, this I-31 advanced parole travel document allows me to enter the United States. So the I-31 is a completely different legal process that it has nothing to do with the I-134A. So if someone sent in a 131, I'm not sure in what context that is in. It's not gonna have any impact with the Humanitarian Parole program here, but it's not also going to give that person the same travel authorization that we're talking about through this parole program for Haitians. So maybe that person probably should chat with an attorney to figure that out. But in general, I'm not sure why a 131 would have been filed for someone who is in Haiti wanting to come to the United States.
Okay, so I think out of respect for Zur's time, I'll make a couple of comments here from our friend in Haiti, or that lives in Port-au-Prince, and they are saying perhaps you just want to buy a plane ticket rather than send the money. And they're also saying, reporting that Western Union is not safe. It put Haitians in danger to pick it up. Maybe where they're located, the pickup points is dangerous. I know that MoneyGram often has locations right concurrent with the banks, and it makes it easier. But so that's that. I think, David, I'm going to throw it back to you. I think I've got a real good suggestion here for maybe another Zoom session where it talks about, our desire to help Haiti, and sometimes how our good deed goes punished. You got to help in the right way. But that would take quite a long time. So it is a good another topic. Thank you, Zer. This is, I think, as deep as this subject is, and as complex as the process is, and as difficult as it is to follow the USCIS wiggly path, you gave us some help. I'm sure that your PowerPoint will be helpful too.
Yeah, and I will make sure to send that to David and Steve so that can be shared with, even for those who were not able to attend tonight. We do have, just so you know, and I'll send this to both of you too, Catholic Charities is hosting another webinar on this topic in April 21st. It's sort of our lunch and learn process, but it's going to be a wider audience because we're talking about all the countries that are included in this parole program. So I would invite you to tell your friends and neighbors if they want to hear more about the program to sign up for that Zoom webinar. It's free. You just have to have internet connection to join us for that Zoom webinar, and you'll learn the same, if not more, information about the humanitarian program and can ask questions. I know this is I think that this is in its core a good program intended to help those people in those countries, but it also carries some unintended consequences, right? And so we do. This is up to you as a community to decide how you want to best help our Haitian friends who are obviously in crisis and struggling. But I hope that the information I've provided today will help you make that discernment a little bit easier, at least on the process and the legality piece of it. And if there are other questions that pop up in the future, there's potential that we could do another Zoom follow-up session after today too, David and Steve. And there might be other angles or questions that people may have after they've had some time to think about this. So I just appreciate you all being so interested in wanting to help your Haitian friends, because I know that internationally there's just so much hurt and harm going on that people are desperate to find some way to come to the United States and get protection.
So Zer, think about this answer carefully. Can we share your contact info?
You can share my contact information, but I cannot guarantee that I will respond to all emails and phones quickly. I will respond, but I can't promise to answer all phone calls and emails quickly. As you all know, as attorneys, we say there's no such thing as a simple question. It all has some various nuances to it. So it might be better to have these type of conversations in the future. So yes, I'll be happy to share my contact information with David and Steve, and you can share it with this group as well as the PowerPoint information.
I'm not sure I've ever gotten a simple answer from an attorney, especially about any question. But anyway, we really appreciate your time and your sharing tonight. There are a number of questions we didn't get to, but we'll be able to capture those. I get a record of those afterwards, as well as the Zoom recording. So I will follow up by sending a link to this recording. I will try our best to get the answers to the questions we didn't get to and include those in the email that I'll shoot out to everybody. So we'll try to do some follow-up, and feel free to reach out to me too if you don't get your question answered. We'll try our best to track it down. So appreciate you all joining us tonight and wish you all the best. God bless you. God bless our friends in all these countries that we care so deeply about.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Stay safe.
Good night. Thanks.